Okay then, just like to obviously welcome everyone to University of Derby. We'll talk about our approach to the Student Lifecycle Relationship Management project. With Polina is going to talk through the service design techniques. She's been our academic advisor for the project, and that's been fantastically valuable. So hopefully sharing in understanding the techniques from that Polina will talk you through will be really helpful, and then we'll do some more interactive workshop session as well to on our approaches and what we've done and how that's worked. So, Miles, do you want to?
Yeah, I'll set it over. Yeah. It's the spot to stand on.
In the square, I think.
Good. Well, welcome, folks, and thanks for braving the weather to be here today. I'm really pleased that we could put this one on, some service design. I've been looking forward to this since we mooted it, so quite exciting. Sharon is online. She tells me she can see us and she can hear fine, so hopefully others can. If anyone who is remote to the event would like to ask questions, then I'll keep a Twitter client open and I'll do my best to represent you. And Sharon sent me a roll call of people she thinks should be here.
Right.
Polina, Shanaz, Rachel, Alison, yeah, Megan, Sue,
yeah,
Kurian,
yep.
Sue,
Me.
yeah, and Kevin. Excellent. So all present.
Lovely.
Great.
Fantastic.
On we go.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Right. Good morning, everybody. Okay. Thank you for coming down or coming up. Okay. We're kind of in the middle, which really makes it probably easy for us to host a number of events. Okay. And today, what we're going to be talking about, of course, is the services design techniques specifically available. Okay, in the area of the certainly in the field of services management. That will be the first session for today. The second part of today will be all about really talking about the techniques and how they can be deployed in your projects over here. And the third part of today's workshop will be all about the actually techniques. Once you've done your analysis, once you've done design of the processes of your services, what can you do next and how can you move forward? Okay. So today is certainly we'll start with the first session. Okay. If you have any questions as we go along, can I ask you, please, maybe to hold them and ask them towards the end of our session? Because that will be probably a bit better with the number of visitors that have certainly virtually joined us. For them, it will represent the cohesive flow of the information and so on and so forth. They don't have slides, I'm afraid, so that what is on the screen, that's what they see at the moment, as far as I know. You've got the benefits of slides in front of you, so if you probably would like to jot any questions, I'll be happy to answer when we've done with the overall slides, if that's all right with you. Okay. Now I need to ask a question. Where is that remote control that I could use?
Yeah.
Okay. I hope so. Okay. Okay. Before we go into the techniques of the services design, okay, what I usually decide to do is talk to the audience about the services, okay, and why services are different from products. Because this idea of the difference between products, tangible objects that can be stored, okay, that can be probably certainly looked upon as the objects and can be owned at the end of the day, okay, which is very different to the area of services. And this idea of the services uniqueness or difference from the tangible products will result in how would you design and redesign your service processes, okay? Okay. Okay.
Do you need me to?
Okay. I can't be doing this all the time.
me
Sue, can I ask you?
I will.
Because I promised remote control and I'll be doing this. Oh, thank you. Okay. First of all, some definitions. Any activity or benefit that one party can offer to another, which is essentially intangible and does not result in the ownership of anything. Okay, by Philip Kotler in 2004. Which means, okay, that largely services are intangible in their nature. Let's think about the dental appointment or appointment. It is largely intangible in their nature. After you had your appointment with a dentist or a surgeon, okay, you don't really owe anything. When you go on holidays, after you had experience of holidays, you don't know anything else apart from probably a card or a number of pictures. That is it. Also, there is the idea of the benefits. Your services are compared on the basis of benefits. What benefits you would have from going to one university in comparison to another university? What benefits would you have from enrolling on a distance learning course in comparison with your conventional full-time, for example, students? What benefits would you have into going for a dental appointment in comparison with, for example, counsel, and so on and so forth? So when you start comparing likes with likes, the issue of benefits is very, very important. It's also quite complex because each of us are individuals who have different preferences, with different likes and dislikes. So what might be beneficial to one customer, one student, might be considered not beneficial to another one. Therefore, this idea of trying to standardize or uniform service quality is very, very complex. You can do it quite easily with the products. You can mass produce them. And it would be guaranteed if you go to the PC world tomorrow and you'll try to buy a laptop, your laptop will have the same specification as the next one to it. There would be very little difference in product features. Okay? However, with regards to the services, you'll have a major differences in quality, okay, in features that might appeal to one customer and will be inappealing to another one. So issue of benefits and understanding what benefits will your service process deliver to a specific customer group is very important. Understanding the service experience is largely intangible, okay, and therefore viewed as such is also very important, and it will impact on your service design. Okay. Services can be bought and sold, but cannot be dropped on your foot, and this is kind of a jokey definition, again suggesting there is aspects of intangibility primarily. So, okay, what are the characteristics, thank you very much, of services in comparison with products? First of all, they are largely intangible. Now, that does not mean that there is no aspects of tangibility either. There are, okay? And what you have in the variety of literature, of service management literature, certainly consideration of the services that are purely intangible, like, for example, a psychotherapy session or session with a counselor. Okay? It doesn't require anything else rather than you and a psychotherapist in the same room, or maybe via link, I don't know, video link if there is such services, okay? But again, that might impact upon the quality of that service, yeah? But we talk about the primarily intangible or the services that are reliant upon the tangible base strongly, holidays. When you go to the 5 or 4-star hotel, you expect a certain quality, a certain tangible aspect that will surround your experience, okay? You also will compare, of course, largely services delivery, okay, or holiday experience, okay, and the issue of the fixed assets of the environment, of the availability of the swimming pools, gyms, and so on and so forth will be very important to your experience, no doubt about it. So there is a different degree of tangibility that you would like to talk about in relations to different types of services, okay? Some are purely intangible, some are with a greater degree of tangibility. Now, it is also important, at University of Derby or any university, we rely on our tangible base. Students are attracted to universities that would have gym, that would have facilities, they would have a large research and development facilities, laboratories. They're attracted to the lecture theatres, they're attracted to the computer suites with the latest software and so on and so forth. That forms a very important base, okay, of the differentiation between different types of learning environment and certainly between the universities. Yeah? So it is important to realize they have benefits, something I've just highlighted earlier on. They are perishable. Okay. Now, this idea of the perishability is another key feature of the services. They cannot be stored, okay, and they're time and place dependent. Okay. To have this specific lecture given to you, which is largely, okay, it is educational aspect, but it is a service. You have to be at this moment of time and this place here. And of course, our technology nowadays allows multiple participants to be here, okay, not physically, but certainly virtually. Okay, but it is important. If you want your hair done, you have to be at the right time and place together with a hairdresser. I don't think it can be done any other ways. And it's not around the Halloween time that I need to be talking about it, but okay, you can kind of think about all different alternatives, but I don't think they are a realistic alternatives for this type of service, yeah? To see a performance, a pantomime, okay, around the Christmas time, you actually need to go to the theatre with your children and your family and experience pantomime. So they are time and place dependent. Tangible products can be moved around. It doesn't matter where they're produced, whether they shipped it to. They could be at your doors within 24 hours. It doesn't matter. Services, it does matter. And this idea that it does matter links very nicely to the idea of the environment, servicescape, issue of the customer service, and so on and so forth. Yeah. Okay. Are inseparable from service provider. Okay. You have to be at one point, place, and time with your service provider. Okay. Either with a lecturer or a hairdresser or as a dentist or on holidays and so on and so forth. They're often inconsistent or variable in quality. And it is this idea that almost impossible to uniform service provision. Okay, you can uniform largely tangible products and goods. In terms of services, you have really two parties involved in the service provision. On one side, customers with needs involved and desires and so on and so forth. On another hand, you also have a service provider. And again, in majority of situations, you will see another human being on the other side of the service provision kind of relationships, okay? And again, this idea of the service providers, again, being people with their own motivations, their own attitudes, behavior, and so on and so forth, patterns, again suggest that standardization might not be 100% an issue, okay? And therefore, this idea of trying to drive quality forward in services is much more difficult than what you probably do in production or manufacturing. You're looking at the design and probably quality of your components or for your raw part or for the quality of your machinery, how up to date it is, and so on and so forth. What is the output and so on and so forth. In services, it is very, very difficult. Okay, cannot be owned. You've been on holiday and I had this wonderful holiday, and that is your experience. And hopefully you had a pleasurable experience. After you've been to university, the only thing that you own is your certificate, yeah, and probably your grades, that you are satisfied, transcript of your grades. That's yours. But the whole experience you had, you cannot owe for the rest of your life. Yeah, that's something that you have. And therefore, in education, it is very difficult, okay, to compete and to provide ultimately this satisfying experience of students being from just a maybe potential student to become a student and then a graduate and so on and so forth. Okay. Okay, no more on that. Okay. Right. Let's go to talk about the processes. Okay. There is a multitude of definitions there, but we talked about the specific of the services. Let's talk about the processes. If you cannot describe what you are doing as a process, you don't know what you're doing, by Edward Deming, a major guru in the area of quality. Okay? And I think it is very important, because when we talk about the process, we talk about the sequence of tasks to achieve a particular end, to achieve a particular outcome. If you can't say, if you cannot describe in a sequence of tasks, of stages, of what actually happening in your service provision, it doesn't matter where you are, whether you're running a restaurant, a hotel, whether you're running a program, educational program, if you don't know what's happening, enrollment process, if you can't describe in tasks what is actually happening and sequence of tasks, what is the starting point and end point, then you don't really know what's happening in that process. And if you don't know what's happening, how is the student supposed to know what's happening? Okay? So understanding is very important, and that's why probably majority of our projects are looking at the issue of the processes and understanding of the processes, yeah, involved in the tasks involved. What, however, I'd like to say is that there is a number of techniques in understanding processes, in analyzing processes. And some of our techniques are purely analytical and looking at the just stages, Another will include customer perspective and customer journey. And we'll talk about it later on. Okay. Okay. Just very briefly, there is a number of service processes in the service management literature available. One is the Sylvester in 1992, and he talks about that you can talk about variety of the service processes dependent on volume of the customers that you serve and variety that you deliver to your customers. Now, broadly, services can be classed as mass services, as service shops, and professional services. Okay, mass services, example here, would be a bus service. Okay, it would be maybe a postal service, a mail service, yeah. And so on and so forth. There is a huge amount out there available. Professional services, very unique, very specialized. We're talking about the issue with consultancy on a specific subject. Okay, maybe you come in with an idea, for example, guys in IBM who do provide unique bespoke solutions. Okay, for specific companies with regards to their hardware and software, will be classed as professional services. Okay, they require a lot of negotiation, a lot of communication with customers, precision, okay, and high reliance on so-called front office operations. Now, we will come across this distinction between the front office and back office operations. That is a service concept, and it is very important for us when we analyze in our processes, because front office is everything that this customer is exposed to. In terms of participants, in terms of the surroundings, in terms of the tone, noise, temperature, everything. Paperwork, nothing is small. Timing and so on. Back office operations, everything that supports your front office, but customer is not exposed to. For example, in our university, customer comes in and hands in the assignment. They're exposed to just really one person sitting behind the desk, stamping it and say, fine, it's accepted. And that backstage we have probably, I don't know, 15, 20 people putting it in the different halls, you know, putting it on different desks, recording it with our systems, allowing academics to know that it's all ready for collection, and so on and so forth. So you have a massive amount of people actually supporting that one act of assignment submission. It is important. Now, in professional services, because they're so unique and so bespoke, you're focused largely on your front office. The customers are important. They are the keys. They are telling you to do what to do, and so on and so forth. In mass services, I'm afraid, it is very quick. It is pretty much, you know, snapshot. We know how to pose a mail. Here we go. Okay, we go to the hole in the wall. We know how to withdraw cash. You know, we don't really need, there's no hassle. There is very little uncertainty. We are sure what we want. We know how to get it. In professional services, both the service provider and the customers, very often they're not sure what is actually going to come out of this relationship, out of the service. Okay, service shops is kind of in the middle. Okay, I will talk about the trying to strike balance between the front and back office operations. Okay, and we're usually looking at the maybe educational providers that are far less than universities. Okay, that are trying to fit into the niche, but certainly not as unique and specialized as professional. And here you will see different types of the complexities that you want to look into with relation to those processes, with relations to people and equipment, front and back office balance, customization versus standardization issue. Yeah, something that I mentioned earlier on, and so on and so forth. For us, it is maybe important because sometimes we need to understand where are we here. Where is our university? We had this discussion during our project. And I think we kind of started to think, okay, we're not as mass as Leicester or Nottingham. Okay, we're not as professional as Oxford or Cambridge. Yeah, so where are we? So how can we compare ourselves? So when you start talking about where are you here, you might wish to say in comparison to whom? Who are they in the market? What are they trying to do? Okay. Now, with relations to service processes, okay, by Zietamel, Bittner and Gremler, 2006, well-known writers in the area of service quality and service management and so on and so forth. They're trying to streamline a bit more or focus our attention on this issue of the service processes. So the actual procedures, mechanisms, and flow of activities by which the service is delivered. The service delivery and operating systems are very important. Okay, so they are including procedures, mechanisms, and flow of activities. Okay, in the relations to the service provision and service delivery. The important issue of the operating system will come later, because remember we talked about the issue of the back office huge part that's supporting systems, okay, databases, financial software, and records, student records allows us to play in certainly education to support a quite simple operation that might be from the customer perspective. Okay, I'm going to cover 3 techniques today with relations to the process mapping, process design, and then I will signpost the one that we've used and how we use it to probably learn later on today. Just trying to be aware of time. Okay, now I wouldn't call it a basic technique, but I'd like to start with this technique, okay? Because for me, it's an interesting analytical technique that doesn't really allow you to drill too well. You will have to drill a lot into your processes. But by drilling into your processes, you will try to identify a major types of tasks that are occurring within that. And what you try to do, you try to attribute the stages within your processes to one of those 5 categories. And those 5 categories will represent, or they represent usually with the graphical symbols, okay? And they're used to produce so-called flowchart, but also allows you then to analyze value adding and value destroying activities within your processes. Okay, any operations, task or activity within your process can be certainly graphically presented as a circle. Movement, any movement of the products, of the tangible elements within your process, customer movements, okay, service operator movements, anything like this will be presented with a certain arrow. Inspection, okay, quality assurance bit, making sure that your paperwork is correct, it is red proof and so on and so forth, okay, it's inspection. Delay, okay, or pause is the second from the bottom shape, okay, and your triangle will indicate storage. Okay, I'll give you an example now. Okay, let's imagine that we have a copy shop at the bottom somewhere on the ground floor of our university, and students, for example, would like to walk in and do their photocopying there. So the following scenario occurs: students walks in, the receptionist fills in the order, what needs to be done, okay, then puts it in a tray, okay, then operator, okay, picks it up, makes sure that it's read correctly, goes into photocopying machine, carries out doing some photocopying and so on and so forth, then put it back into waiting tray, and cashier actually then deals with the customer, and payment is done, and that's it. That's your process, okay? Pretty much straightforward. So we have 3 really service people involved in this kind of process from the company's point of view. That's your receptionist, operator, and cashier. And you have a customer. Yeah? So basically you have 4 participants within that particular process. Okay, the first thing you would do is that you would break down, okay, this process into the small stages and quite clear description of what's actually happening. So here we are. Receptionist fills out work order placed in a waiting box, job picked up by the operator in red, job taken to a copying machine, operator waits for his turn at the machine, operator loads paper, operator sets machine, operator performs the copying, operator inspects the copying. Job taken to a cashier, job waits its turn for processing, cashier raises invoice, cashier takes payment, cashier packages the job. Your graphic symbols at the top, and what you do then is that you with a tick, cross, a star, whatever you want to use, doesn't matter, attribute each of those tasks to those graphic symbols. Now, if I would be a manager, I would be really worried at this point. Because out of probably 20 stages that are on this list, there is only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 that are actually meaningful operations or tasks. These are the tasks that generate value for our business, okay? They are exceptionally important, and this is why customer pays us a fee. Now, everything else is big question mark. Movement, okay? Now, does it generate money or does it cost money? Inspection. Okay, it's meaningful, it's nice, we have to inspect what we photocopied and so on and so forth. But then we have 3 points of delays. Why is this delay happening? Is it necessary within this process to have delays? Now, what happens if delays will be overstretched? How would customer react to it? So a very powerful concept within operations management in terms of the value adding and value destroying activities. When you are looking at your processes, you need to make sure that all of your tasks are value adding. And if there are some that are not, they're strongly supporting your value adding activities. Everything else that costs money, okay, but does not add value should be really questioned. Now, within the area of the operations management, we'll talk about the waste, or getting rid of waste. And by waste in operating management, we understand everything that doesn't generate money but costs us. Movements, breakdowns of the equipment, time allocated for dealing with a particular issue or problem, or overtime, with dealing with a specific issue and so forth. Time loss due to the machine failure or system failure. Time taken due to maybe industrial strikes and anything like this. Unnecessary movement, should be eliminated. So you try to streamline your operations. Try to think about them that everything else out of those really 7 operations should be really questioned. Then you start asking questions. Why do you employ 3 people in these operations? It is pretty much straightforward. If there is no 2 people employed, maybe a bit less, maybe 1, maybe 2, then you will get rid of the issue of the movement, waiting, delays, and so on and so forth. So this particular concept allows you to understand what are the important tasks or activities within your processes, which one actually add value and which are not. And therefore, again, I think it's a useful analytical technique to look into when you start thinking about your processes and redesigning them. Okay. The next I'm going to broadly touch upon. That's your process flow diagram. Now, this is taken from the operations management core text we use in one of our modules. And it's straightforward. Process diagram. It is actually done on a particular company that deals with the copying jobs, for large companies, large businesses. For example, they would like a particular labels, for their products, or maybe for a particular type of their packaging or brochures and so on and so forth. So you'll see here a variety of the stages involved in customers actually approaching sales representatives or department of a particular company, stating the order, discussing the order, and then going through the order, actually printing and so on and so forth, and then through the shipping, invoicing, and so on and so forth. There is a number of stages involved here. Important aspect here, you can see by arrows indicated, broken black arrows, that's your flow of materials, and the blue one is a flow of information, which is important. Now, it is a useful tool to understand links and connections between your activities and how they're coupled together to really produce an outcome for your customers. From my point of view, however, it doesn't take into consideration, of course, the customer experience. Customer kind of detached, they're not involved, they're only signposts at the beginning of their process, this is what's actually happening. But there is nowhere here that I could potentially see customer journey through the process. And if I can't see customer journey, then therefore I cannot really assess customer experience in relation to that specific service that is provided by this company. Again, useful concept, interesting to look into, and fascinated, and kind of very hard to actually implement, because you need to start to think about the sticky pads and who is doing what within your organization, how those processes are linked together, whether they add value or they do not, and so on and so forth. Right. Let's talk about the blueprinting. This is a specific concept that is designed and well praised in the area of services, because it looks at the issue of the customer journey through the service, and this issue that it is largely intangible environment, it is largely intangible process. However, there are a lot of elements that impacts upon the customer perception of quality and the services experienced. It is a bit more sophisticated version. Now, the terminology blueprinting came from the 18th century naval engineering, yeah, when you would have a very detailed sketch or plan of the vessel, and it would be done in the blue ink. Yeah? So that's why we talk about the blueprinting. And I think it borrowed to probably majority of the areas of the certainly science. And we talk about the engineering, construction, design, and so on and so forth. But of course, services borrowed it and we said, right, if we have blueprinting for engineering, construction, naval, and so on, why can't we have a blueprint for services? Detailed description of what happens in that particular stage, in that particular activity where customer involved. Okay. So first of all, when you think about the blueprinting, you start with the same type of logic as you would do for flow charting or process design flow. Okay. You start with breaking down. Okay. Your activities into major tasks, but what you're looking at, stages, major stages that customer involved in the service delivery. So we have main stages in customer journeys through the service process. That's what you are focusing into. Then you would probably define some kind of standards for each activity in terms of times, maybe in terms of the expectations, and so on and so forth. Then you would consider physical elements or tangible elements that are present, okay, at this particular stage. And again, those tangible elements will impact upon the customer perception. You also would consider intangible aspects. For example, it might be a voice, a courtesy, manners, it can be noise level, it can be temperature, it can be lighting. Very important in hotels and restaurants. Yeah? When you walk into the restaurant and you can hear the Christmas music, you go, oh yeah, that's great, I'm walking in, I couldn't care less, yeah? And something like this. Okay, very important, yeah? And which, of course, impacts upon the customer perception and satisfaction. Okay, yeah, you also would talk about the participants of the front stage activity. So you would realize you have a customer, but you also have with the customer within that specific environment, who else is dealing with him? Do we have one department? Do we have two departments? Do we have three departments? Okay, when we talk about departments, usually kind of impersonal. But who? Do we have a team who actually deals with the customer at this stage of our process? Or he or she just left flowing through? And then they're coming back and saying, I didn't understand that, nobody told me that. Should have been informed? Why not? Okay, then we draw a so-called line of visibility, or it is this distinction between the front office and back office operations, yeah? And then we'll talk about the backstage actions, okay, or stages. Important part for us was to understand that we have a huge back office operations here to support our customer journey. No doubt you are as well, at your university is there as well. Now, that backstage, okay, environment or relationships are as important as the front stage. There is no doubt about it. Failure within the systems and processes at the backstage that support your front stage operation could result in overall failure with the customer. Okay, so therefore, understanding of the major participants, systems, processes, procedures that are involved at the backstage to support your front stage operations are exceptionally important. Okay, very simple example of the blueprint, and I usually start with this one because I'm sure you will see a version of blueprint a bit later on, which is a little bit more advanced. But I think it's good to start with something like this. Now that is a blueprint, a very simplistic blueprint on a restaurant experience. Okay. Now I'd like to say that it's not an a la carte restaurant, but it's also not a fast food restaurant. It's kind of mediocre in the middle. Okay, so let's start stage in the service process. Greet customers, okay, obtain table, give menu, take order, prepare, deliver order, okay, meal finished. If, however, there is a further order, then we're going into preparation and delivery mode, okay. If there is a problem with the order, hopefully then again go into preparation and delivery mode. So there is some kind of a sequence of tasks over here. Sometimes some of this might include a decision box, yes and no situation and so on and so forth, something that we incorporate in our blueprint in much more detail. But at this stage, we're saying this is an important part of the environment, which doesn't really flow a sequence of tasks straight away, but there is a lot of decision could be made within this specific part of the blueprint with regards to what customer actually wants, whether they would like a dessert, maybe additional drink, or and what have you. Okay, and of course here you have the final stage, pay for a meal. Okay, that's your basic stages of the customer journey. So we're not talking about our process, what we do. We talk about the customers, and that's important. Now, next one, we talk about the target time. We had a discussion about target time. Now, it is important, however, to record your actual time within processes, and if you like, design time. Ultimately, okay, you would like then to compare those two figures and consider if it takes student to register, okay, 2 days, rather than if you would expect them to register within, I don't know, 24 hours, maybe less. And less than that. If it is online, it's even faster. Yeah. Then you start yourself asking questions. Why is what is happening? And then of course, you need to compare average time, something that you might wish to do with recording or time cards and stuff like that, to investigate further. Why is that specific stage within your process take it so long? Because of course that will impact upon the further stages. And of course that will impact upon the customer experience. Okay? Because I don't think it would be classed efficient service if you walked into the restaurant and you're waiting there for 45 minutes unattended. Well, I don't think you'll wait for 45 minutes. I think you'll turn around very, very quickly. Yeah? And leave. Okay, anyway, we have target time and so on and so forth. Participant, customer, servant, staff, participant, and so on and so forth. So within every stage, you would identify who is there with the customer. Okay. It's important to realize, yes, there is somebody should be with the customer at least, or the customer should be acknowledged that actually he is dealing with, because again, that maintains him, that supports him being within that process. It gives them feeling that he's actually dealt with. The service is actually happening. He is fine. Okay. And then we have visible evidence and invisible. So within a restaurant, appearance of restaurant, furnishing, decor, appearance of staff, all those things are very important. It is important for us as well, in education. Mm-hmm. We talk about the furniture, menu cards, okay, we talk about the food itself, presentation of the food, okay, we talk about the tableware, we talk about the manners and so on and so forth. All of those things are crucially important in businesses. Now, they probably should be important for us as well. I don't think we should train our staff how to talk to our students, but I think the notion that lighting is important, temperature is important, the environment where the students are approached and actually asked to come in on their first day of enrollment is important. Yeah? If they see a chaos in front of them, that would not really translate very well into their experience. And then we have line of visibility, and that's your backstage operations. And here within the restaurant experience, we have a staff training with regards to the greeting customers, approaching customers. We'll talk about the cleaning of the restaurants, order processing. We'll talk about the systems of preparation of food and hygiene and so on and so forth. We'll talk about the ordering and supplies. We'll talk about the accounting procedures and systems that allows you to actually fulfill that stage of your operation. So everything that supports your front stage, okay, is exceptionally important. So there is no small thing. So if, for example, you will make a mistake with any of those, it will translate into inability to deliver the front stage. So the link is crucially important. Okay. Really, we're approaching too fast. Just a few things, okay? So, developing a blueprint. Identify key activities in creating and delivering services. Define big picture before drilling down to obtain higher level of detail. So you start with your stages, and then you drill down as much as possible, as detailed as possible, within your front stage and backstage operation. That's why it's called the blueprint. It has to be detailed. If it's going to be stages with some participants and some times and whatever, that really doesn't do well. Okay. And the detail, to what extent you will be going into detail, depends really on the purpose of your project and what you're doing, how far you need to go. Clarify interactions between customers and staff and support by backstage activities and systems. Now, important, identifying fail points. Okay, you've produced a blueprint. It's a beautiful diagram with all of the boxes in it, with a graphic state of art. You're proud of it, and you think, that is it, that is our baby, we're so proud of it. And you say, well, what's next? Okay, you put it on the wall, and that's it, we've done it, you know. No. Of course, it is a mechanism for analysis, understanding what you're doing, what are the links between front stage, backstage, how important, but also important for you as a manager to realize that throughout this particular process, there are stages that will contain high risk, okay, high importance, high risk for the overall process. Now, those stages of a high risk will indicate that there is a high frequency of failure occurring with that stage, either within customers being unsatisfied or inappropriately addressed, information being delayed, and so on and so forth. But there are stages that you as a manager need to pay most importance to. Now, I'm not saying that all of those stages are not important. Of course they are. They're all crucially important. But there are some that you know, if something will go wrong there, the whole process will just break down. And that's something to do maybe with fees, something to do with online material, something to do with maybe construction of curriculum, and so on and so forth. It is up to you to identify really those high risk areas. And of course then as a manager, you would try to streamline and think very hard, okay? How could you at least minimize the high risk within those stages? Now we call them fail points. So on your blueprint, you'll have to indicate where are the high risk fail points, because then you are becoming selective, because then you're appreciating that all of the processes are crucially important. As a manager, however, you have to pay attention here, 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 here. Now, how to identify those points is another matter. Now, the first probably approach would be to understand customer perspective. And you could talk to your customers, to your students. What are the areas within the process of enrollment, whatever that might be, is especially unsatisfied, something that affect their perception, their quality, and so on and so forth. What do you think you are as an organization need to pay the most attention to? And it is where your focus groups, your research comes in, okay? The other, however, perspective, of course, management perspective. When you talk to your colleagues, to handle the departments, functional areas within the university, and also let them produce their own point of view or express their own point of view with regards to what they think is the most important in the backstage, because customer is not exposed to. But what do they think crucial elements from their perspective, which is important. So therefore, you might produce some kind of a duality of the attitude, in terms of the fail points and so on and so forth, and it's entirely up to you, okay, which approach you would take forward, okay, for the outcomes of your projects. I know we are very strong on the customer opinion with regards to our processes at this stage of the game. Okay, so advantages of the blueprint differentiates between what customers experience front stage of the activities and employees and support processes backstage. Now, blueprint shows how customer and employees and company interact. Unfortunately, flowchart doesn't really show anything. The process flowchart shows stages, but doesn't really take into consideration interaction and that environment where customer comes in close contact with the organization. Okay? It doesn't distinguish within those crucial areas. Okay, blueprint highlights possible fail points in the process and allows you to pay your attention as a manager to those high-risk areas, and you try to then produce improvement techniques, which we're going to talk about later on today, or we're going to talk about. Okay, how could you deal with those high-risk areas? And more in-depth analysis of service encounter, crucial stages of services process redesign. Now, this idea of the service encounter is crucially important for customer satisfaction. Yeah? It is this idea that coming close contact with the customers is very, very important. Okay. I'm not so sure whether we should carry on. I think it's 1 o'clock. I've got probably another 2 slides to go through. How do we feel? Do we feel all right? We like to keep on going? Yeah? It's not okay. Now, how would you identify those fail points, those high-risk areas? Okay? Okay, high-risk areas in service delivery where things could go wrong. And sometimes will go wrong. Yeah? Then we'll talk about this idea of the impossibility to uniform service quality. It is impossible. Yeah? So things will go wrong. How do we deal with that? Well, first of all, how we identify. First of all, look at the arrows. And that might be a treatment arrows, like human during contact with the customers. For example, lack of courteous or professional behavior. failure to acknowledge, listen to, or react appropriately to the customer. Okay, that's important. Areas of excessive wait, okay? That's when customer waits longer than certainly appropriate. And that would result in a failure of the situation. Customer walk into the restaurant, you know, half an hour, nobody there, turns around and goes. Customer approaches your university, nobody comes back. Well, what will be the reaction? We'll go somewhere else. There's plenty on offer out there. Different types of offer, maybe more successful offer than we have. So how can we make sure that this would not happen in our processes, or we minimize risk for that kind of scenario happening within our processes? Then we have some tangible errors, which doesn't really link to the treatment errors, and this is our failure of physical elements of service. Like, for example, noise pollution, improper standards for cleaning facilities and uniforms, equipment breakdown within the university, systems breakdown, I don't know, records being, I don't know, inappropriately stored or copied and so on and so forth. Okay. And that would happen. Now, that also would result in a failure. So within your blueprint, you will have both aspects of the failure points. Now, what can we do? Okay, we aim of fail-safe procedures to prevent errors. For example, if you can design out of your service processes any high-risk areas, please do so. Design goes a long way. It's one of the way of minimizing, reducing your errors in the future. If there is very little possibility, probably no possibility or no opportunity at all for this particular error of occurring, it won't. Okay, but if there is stages that you can't, you know, do without, they're compulsory, they're very important. You're looking at the fail-safe procedures and techniques of minimizing those risks, which we're going to talk later on today, which I've mentioned. Okay, and of course, in terms of the weight, you're looking at the possibility of reducing excessive weight. Okay, approaching customer, communicating with them. You are in a process. You are being acknowledged. We are in the process of considering your offer. We are doing them without doing that, and so on and so forth. Keeping them informed. Okay, making them part of the process. We are engaged. We have a relationship. It is important to us. We would like to acknowledge it. Okay, last but not the least, apologies to all the virtual viewers. I don't think you can see it very well. Okay, but this is an advanced version of the blueprint. Not as advanced as you're going to see later on, but I thought that is a nice one. Okay, that's actually been produced by one of my students, or group of the students. I'm quite proud of them. Okay, and they're going to the surgery blueprint, and they put some jokey faces and stuff like that. Okay, and that's cool. That's all right. Okay, what I'd like to say is that the blueprint doesn't have to be horribly boring. It is your piece of work. Okay, it is your understanding of how really service is happening within your organization. It is interesting, it is important. What, however, we could see here is a fail on those waiting points identified quite clearly, and you will see there is quite a number of them. And it is important to actually exercise selection, because again, it is those high-risk areas, not all of those things. Okay. Now, I think I'd like to probably finish the session on blueprint now, okay? And if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to ask me, but I think we'll leave it till that. Okay?
Right. You talked about sort of understanding if you can't describe what a process is. What happens if the language that is used in an institution isn't consistent to describe what the process is? You know, registration means something different almost every touch point that the student has in that process, and they're calling it registration, they're calling it something else. So it's no wonder that students are confused. So how do you get around the lack of consistency in language?
Yeah. I think potentially, I mean, if you think about the project, okay, then I think you probably need to, well, certainly get the understanding right, okay, what is actually meant by a specific process. If you want, you'd like to maybe produce your own glossary of the project. What is actually meant by registration? What stages do you include? Is it one stage? It is a number of stages, and so on and so forth. Why are they different from somebody else? So you need to really achieve a cohesive understanding of your terminology. Now, when we talk about the students, that probably maybe one of the outcomes of your project may be to clarifying this particular terminology on the level of your institution and making it clear that it is appropriate and it's certainly transparent across the university as a whole, because then probably you will run out. If you'll be talking about improving your designs or your enrollment, whatever process you're looking into, or your registration stages, then I think you will need to be clear what you actually meant by.
So the confusion is the back office processes. You talk in that language to the students, and they don't.
Yeah, yeah. When you talk to this language and students, is that a focus group or is that the interview situation? What kind of?
It's been surveys, interviews.
Right. Okay. Okay. Would it be a possibilities then when you are, for example, if you're doing a survey, say it is important for us to identify our terminology. So therefore, by region we mean actually this and this and this and this. So you have to be really clear of what you're actually asking your students. If it is within the focus group, then you probably would send kind of preempted questions before they come to the focus groups, because that will save you time and you save kind of misunderstanding with the terminology and aspects and so on and so forth. So again, you have to be clear, okay, on what you actually mean. Now, that's not a unique problem. In academia, we have all different understanding of what do we mean by the front stage blueprint and so on and so on. We have it all the time. That's why if you would write an academic paper or any type of presentation at the conference, you would say, this is my definition, this is what I define. So I think to avoid that kind of errors and certainly inconsistency in data from the students, you have to be very, very clear and communicate to them what you actually mean by registration. Then you'll take the initiative maybe further and suggest that one of the outcomes of our project is that we think that there needs to be clarity in our language and approach, okay, to how we actually certainly send information, communicate between ourselves, but also send information to our students. That might be outcome that you'd like to suggest as an improvement.
It's noted already.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Are you using blueprint as a point in time to achieve something else, or should we be using it as a living sort of blueprint that is managed and changed over time, kept up to date?
I think at this moment of time, okay, we're proud that we've developed what is happening at the moment. That is experience of the students so far within our enrollment process. Now, it is viewed, of course, as something that we could actually build on, identify those fail points, and actually move and improve and so on and so forth. But then, of course, within probably next year or so, because of maybe our recommendations, certain stages will change. And therefore, they will have to be updated. I think it is living and breathing, but I think there is a certain point that you'll say, right, enough is enough, because we could change it all again and again and again, and we'll keep on refreshing it, keep on adding new aspects and so on and so forth. I think there has to be some kind of a cut-off stage where you say, right, okay, that everybody's agree on that. That is what is at time. Let's work on the improvement. Then, after we've done some kind of improvement or change process and so on and so forth, let's kind of redraw it or change whatever it is and see what else we can do. And see the dynamics.
Build in or recommend a review process to build.
I would certainly. I mean, this is a very, very, very point. I certainly it is. Yes, because with any services, you know, as a new technology comes in, new type of customers comes in, the requirements, and we change our systems and practice. Hopefully, yeah, it has to be updated.
It's got a lot of use as well in terms of training for sort of new staff and everything. And it's a kind of a nice idea to keep it alive and change it over time.
Yeah.
But it's always hard to do in terms of processes as well, to manage that process.
It also can be used to actually try to, not a uniform, but have a mutual understanding of what do we mean by particular processes. And you say, well, this is the blueprint, not only a training tool, but also an understanding tool. This is what we're suggesting, this is how it works, we call it this way. And maybe hopefully over time, it takes probably longer, it will take quite a while, because people are very much set in their routines, behaviors, and use of language, certainly, and it is embedded with our culture of the university. So we'll probably still be calling it in 5 years' time, but at least there is understanding that that is what is meant within our understanding of the enrollment process. That's the official document. Whether you like it or
In fact, on that, it's always better to kind of, define your measurements. So freeze your blueprint, define your measurements for the critical stages, and then when you review those measurements is when you kind of redesign the process or update the process.
But yeah, I'd like that our blueprint will be somewhere on somebody's wall. I'd like to see that.
Yeah.
It will be on my wall. Yeah.
Can I ask, when developing a kind of new product, should this be done at the same time as any new product development, or should this come after?
Is it a product development or service development? Let's talk about the service development. Yeah, service development. It can be done for the new service development, no doubt about it. I think what you need to think about then your first stage is an outcome of your service. What is actually you're trying to deliver? What are the benefits to the customers? What kind of technology that you're going to use? How it's going to be interlinked together? And maybe start to think about, all right, we envisage the customer approaches are this way. The next stage will be this, and then. So you have some kind of idea of what's happening. Then you think about your participants, okay? Then you have elements of the experience in terms of the tangible and intangible aspects. Back office operations important, of course, surely. Yeah, absolutely. I think it can be used to design new services. It has been proven, however, much more efficient on the, of course, assessing the customer journey, which is already in existence. But there is nothing stopping you taking it forward and thinking, right, I'm going to approach it in a logical way, okay, and this is the stages, that's what we want to see, and that's how we could go forward, yeah. Right. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.